Deputy National Chair, thank you very much for the time. Let me greet first Aus Dimpo, Aus Waruna, Aus Wama Communist, and lifelong. The family of our fella, good doctor, and all your family members not present here. Kirumedi say all officials of the SACP, led by our national chair, Comrade Blade Nzimande, Comrade Joyce Muloy Moropa, our national treasurer, Comrade Madala Masuko, our first deputy general secretary, members of our central committee, and our provincial secretary in Gauteng, Comrade Mama Bulo, as well as our newly elected district secretary, who's experiencing this event for the first time from a party mobilization perspective. I can say, Temsilo, you have passed with flying colors. Well done. Let me also greet the Ngobi family, the family of our esteemed Treasurer General of the African National Congress, a Zimbabwean national by birth, but a committed revolutionary of the South African Revolution to the end. His children were with us in the Liberation Army, the Glorious People's Liberation Army, Umkhonto weSizwe. And greet the leadership of the ANC, led by Secretary General Comrade Blade Nzimande. There's only one Secretary General in the country of political parties. Others, or one General Secretary, others are Secretary Generals. So my apologies in this regard. And great Comrade Figile Mbalula, the SG of the African National Congress. All members of the NEC of the ANC present here, and the provincial chair of the ANC, Comrade Banyaza Lusuku, who's also premier of our province. The activist premier. Yeah, move. Let me then also recognize the provincial secretary of the ANC, Comrade Niza, and the leadership of the ANC in the region, Comrade Kagaza, Comrade Doctor. And greet the leadership of COSATU, led by Deputy President Mike Shingange, the fighting shop steward. And recognize all government officials, senior government officials, ministers and deputy ministers, Minister Gungubele, Deputy Minister Thaba Makwetla, Commissar of our Liberation Army, Umkhonto weSizwe. And recognize various embassies present here today, the Embassy of the People's Republic of China, Comrade Liu Kayang, as well as his delegation. And recognize the High Commissioner of Zambia, Ms. Bernardine Monze, and appreciate once more the great contribution of our former headquarters of the African National Congress in exile, Lusaka. And recognize the High Commissioner of Lesotho, His Excellency Ntsime Jafeta, for the first time. Lesotho, 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 what thing Mona, who is a Prime Minister, Relevata Mona, one get high Mona. The refilena man, Lesotho, Ritulela, Ronald Operation Moon. Yam Konto weSizwe, ANC. Comrade Chris Hani once was the chief rep of the ANC right there in Lesotho. And recognize as well, comrades, the representative of the Russian embassy, Ms. Polina Kolakova. That great country, Russia, under the Soviet Union, trained our comrades, including Commander Chris and many others. Today itself, Russia is at the center together with China to defend the New World Order and to advance the New World Order. These are at the prime. And therefore, our relationship with these countries, as we have been punished by the US imperialists and Western imperialists in Europe because of our relationship with these countries, we will never forgo our friends to please the imperialists and colonialists who have oppressed us over centuries. Allow me, Program Director, once more, because my protocol is long, to greet councillors here in Ekurhuleni, my home city. That's where I was born, and that's why in this district, in this region, when things don't go well, it affects me personally. And I'm glad, SG, you are talking towards resolving this question of the ANC leadership of this region in council. The ANC must lead or be the opposition. We should not be subjected to ill treatment of our people when we are the majority. This region produced more martyrs at the hour of liberation than any other region in this country. Followed, of course, by KZN, in particular, Durban-Maritzburg region. Therefore, the ANC here, when it's humbled by the masses, by not electing them to lead officially, they must be the opposition and tell the masses that you have humbled us. Go and correct their ills and come back to lead. So the ANC must lead, Comrade Panyaza, here in this region. Let me therefore greeting the Council of Ekurhuleni, start by greeting the Speaker of Council, Untabi Singh, as well as the Whip of Council, Comrade Jongisizwe Dabati from the African National Congress. Of course, greet Reverend Mapatwe. That's our chaplain, the people's chaplain. The chaplain of Umkhonto weSizwe. He's the chaplain of the Communist Party, the chaplain of the ANC. That's our chaplain there. And we appreciate your presence all the time, chaplain. Sometimes nokubona uthi ukhona babiza abanye abafundisi bazosithandazela. Siyayivuma yonke imithandazo ebuya. Kodwa sinawo abafundisi abaqeqeshwa yithi abethu. He's from theology school himself. So siyakubonga ukuthi ube khona. Ngibulise bonke abafundisi abakhona. And all our traditional leaders that have joined us. And greet the National Secretary of our Young Communist League, Comrade Mzwandile Takuli, and all the youth leadership present here. And greet all councillors and political parties in council of Ekurhuleni. And recognize Commander Den Hatu, the convener of Umkhonto weSizwe Liberation War Veterans, for which today I'm wearing its combat. As I recognize equally all former mayors of our great city, Comrade Ntombi Mehwe, my great sister and comrade. Comrade Mondli Gungubele, I need your warrior dome. Mondli. Yes, we need your warrior dome. Don't be overcome by government program. The people of this region, of this city, were with you in the front line, together with Comrade Chris. When you arrive in this region, you were like this, together with you, reorganizing this region to defend itself and to fight against apartheid. Yakfuna le region. Comrade Mzwandile Masina, and all comrades present here, all protocol observed, those that I've missed out. My sincere apologies. My protocol was too long, as is always, and I'm not allowed to skip this protocol. To summarize our message, comrades, is to start by saying that our revolution is in deep crisis. is facing a monumental challenge. As we celebrate and recognize the living legacy of our great General Secretary, Commander of Umkhonto weSizwe, the Glorious People's Liberation Army, Chief of Staff, Commissar Chris Hani, who was tragically assassinated by the bullets of apartheid and colonialism, by the bullets of criminals on April 10, 1993. This assassination was planned to stop our country's transition from apartheid to democracy. Democracy which itself, it's not freedom, but it's a road to freedom. In other words, when we achieve democracy, we achieve the power of the people to transform their lives. Sometimes we misconstrue this notion that democracy is freedom. Democracy is the road to freedom. And that road itself must be protected. At this hour in our revolution, democracy is under threat. Our own freedom, therefore, is under threat. These assassins also were opposed to see our society advancing towards socialism. In their own words, they said they targeted Chris Hani because he was a communist. Of course, Chris Hani was a revered leader of the working class. He certainly had a greater leadership role to play in a democratic South Africa, which he dedicated his entire life for. When the assassins killed him in cold blood, they also stole the life of from the Hani family, a husband from Ausdimp, a father, an uncle, you name it all, a family man, because Chris Hani was a great family man. As the SACP, we have consistently been with the Hani family in the fight for justice on this case for over 31 years. We were with the family throughout the assassin's trial. We were with the family from the TRC period. We will always be with the family. We were with the family until the assassins were convicted. They were sentenced to death. But because this movement recognized the right to life, these assassins were spared their lives. Their capital punishment was therefore commuted to life imprisonment. We equally stood with the Hani family to appeal when the assassins appealed their conviction and their sentences. We won all those processes until they went to the Constitutional Court, where we were disappointed. We were unsuccessful. They were released. The other one was released on medical parole. And when he was released, Clive W. Lewis, he recorded a video which he said must be released after his death, where he said if given another opportunity, he will do it again. Our institutions don't even play it, our media. On the contrary, they've been condemning us and the Hani family for being unforgiving. How do you forgive somebody who's not remorseful, who doesn't want to tell the truth? We are still seeking the truth even now. That is why we have said we now want an inquest. And Minister Blade Nzimande, on behalf of government, today we know that this message will arrive where it's supposed to go. The SACP is requesting government to initiate an inquest on all circumstances leading to the death of our General Secretary, Commander Chris Hani. We are asking you to convey this message to government. We have even collected signatures, online signatures. After this assassin, the last assassin was the actual assassin, Janus Walus, was released on the basis of the Constitutional Court judgment. And therefore, Chris Hani, what he died for, Ausdimpo summarized it. Comrade Mbalula as well as Comrade Blade and Comrade Mike, spoke at length about this question. But I just want to highlight something critical in this regard. The negotiated settlement. Because it's important to understand the threat to our democracy and to our freedom and the consequence of the negotiated settlement. We had here not peace, we had unjust peace. In other words, as a consequence of the negotiated settlement, the victims of colonialism and apartheid, the victims of white minority rule, the victims of colonial capitalism in our country, subjected themselves to an unjust process for the sake of peace, because we wanted democracy in which we can gain political power in the hands of the majority, who can then begin to transform their lives. That's what happened. Now, those we negotiated this unjust outcome with, that is why, by the way, the Communist Party called that period the 1994 democratic breakthrough as a consequence of Comrade Hani's death, when we demanded through President Nelson Mandela and the African National Congress leading this process, the date for elections. This date for elections that we are now continuing with other elections is literally written with the blood of a communist martyr, representing many other martyrs of our revolution who died for the freedom and democracy that we enjoy today. But with this consequence, comrades, those we negotiated with have betrayed the negotiations, because ourselves, in the name of peace, we made compromises in this period. One of those compromises, for instance, well, let me put it this way. As commanders in war, when you defeat your enemy after a battle, Commissar Magwedi, you command a situational report to understand what's happening. Commander Atu, this is our commander of Umkhonto weSizwe. When you command a situational report, you disarm first the enemy. In other words, you suppress all instruments of oppression of the enemy. That's why the first task is to disarm the enemy and have the enemy under your control. In that way, you can then unleash your own program. With the negotiated transition, we were not able to do that. The transition became long. We negotiated for too long, even when we were in government. Now, these negotiators, because they are treacherous in nature, have decided to betray this revolution. Now they want to take it from the back door. We will never allow this revolution to go astray. We will never allow this revolution to be stolen. And this time, they better be warned. We will never accept unjust settlement. That is why this revolution has to be defended. That is why the South African Communist Party, working together with its allies headed by the African National Congress, understand the immediate task that we face today to defend this revolution from counter-revolutionaries, both from inside and from outside, counter-revolutionaries from Europe and counter-revolutionaries from America, who are colluding to remove our liberation movement from political power. They are not even hiding this fact. Today, even the chief rabbi, who together at a time after the assassination of Chris Hani and all other religious leaders, accepted and condemned the apartheid regime, today he calls for the ANC to be removed from political power. This is what we are dealing with. And this is what we must use the memory of Comrade Chris Hani to defend this revolution. When Comrade Hani died, there was massive outrage in this country. Mtabi Singh spoke about this as well. Massive outrage and discontent in our country. But our people, in their mobilization, little did the apartheid regime knew what they were doing. On his funeral, on the 19th of April, it was a stay away. Over 4 million people who stayed away from work to pay tribute to this gallant hero of our liberation struggle. 2.5 million people participated in pickets and marches leading to his funeral across the country. That stay away was the biggest recorded in our country's history. His funeral became the biggest in our country's history. Why were the people responding this way to this hero, Chris Hani? Because he resembled, he was the epitome of the value system of our liberation struggle. What were these value systems? This is what Comrade Chris Hani always spoke about. Many comrades clarified this question, for instance. But he said it very simply. He said, we will create work for the unemployed. But capitalism is incapable to create jobs for all the people. The state has to take responsibility for this particular task. And therefore, even the program of transformation of society itself is a program of the state. We cannot leave this in the hands of capital. At the same time, he said, we must build homes for the homeless. That's why he launched the campaign as General Secretary of the Communist Party, the Triple H campaign, Health, Hunger, Housing, a campaign to fight against hunger. Today, we still have hunger in this country when the big bosses, the capitalists, that subverted this democracy, still control the mineral wealth beneath the soil, still control huge resources at the stock exchange. The money in the stock exchange that is in liquid form, that should resolve the problem of this country, it's under the control of capitalists. And yet they have the guts to stand in public and say poverty is caused by government. Poverty is caused by capitalism. It must be said clearly. And you in government, stop taking responsibility on behalf of capital. Even the ruling party, our party, the African National Congress, sometimes, Comrade Balula, I don't understand this thing, why we take responsibility for the crisis of capitalism. When there's a crisis of capitalism, we must create a people's state that actually subverts capitalism, and therefore we take responsibility to lead society as a movement. There's nothing that says the state cannot develop and improve productive forces. Capital wants to create an impression that only itself can create and develop capacity for work, productive forces. No, we have a country here. Here is comrade from China, Comrade Kai, from the People's Republic of China, the most advanced economy in the world. They have ended abject poverty on behalf of 1.4 billion people, led by the Communist Party since 1949. Capital is under their political control. So here we have capital that assumes itself the political leader of society. There is no capital that can ever be the political leader of society. Capital must subvert itself to the political leadership of the elected government of a society. Post this election backs, we are going to have a proper discussions about the reconfiguration of the alliance and about the political exercise of power. In the name of Comrade Chris Hani, we have brought here and throughout our country our Red Brigades who are campaigning for the African National Congress to defend this revolution and to defend the legacy of Comrade Chris. In this process, we are not signing a blank check. We are a part of the working class. Our mission is to make revolution. We don't want to accompany anyone in the revolutionary program. Our mission is to make a socialist revolution in this country and suppress capitalism. We will achieve this objective at the moment, working on the terrain of the National Democratic Revolution with the African National Congress, COSATU, SANCO, and our democratic forces. We will do all of that together in this particular terrain. That's why we are in an alliance with the African National Congress, to continue this process. But to the extent that poverty is still the way it is in our country, Ausdimpo spoke at length, for instance, about the cost of living crisis affecting the working class in our country. We have to assume responsibility. That is why we are humbling ourselves to our society, to our people. Bring back the African National Congress to political power in the country. Give it decisive majority. Because now the African National Congress is clear. Even those that we were thinking we are working with to stabilize even our economy using this language of the IMF have themselves betrayed the African National Congress, the imperialist forces. They will never forgive you. If you think post this election they are going to forgive you, never. They've taken a decision in the whole centers of America, in Washington, in London. They've taken this decision that this movement must be removed from political power. We are on our own, as we have been on our own. They were not there in the fight against apartheid. They were not there in the fight against colonialism because themselves were the colonizers. It is the socialist countries, Russia, China, Cuba, Laos and others, Vietnam, that were with us. So going forward, after this victory of 29th of May, we must be clear as a revolutionary movement. In the name of Comrade Chris Hani, our Red Brigades are named after Comrade Chris Hani, the Chris Hani Red Brigade for these elections. And we don't just loosely use the word of our General Secretary, Chief of Staff, and Commander of our Army, Comrade Chris Hani. We are not like other people who just use this name loosely. Chris Hani belongs to all the people of our country, the working class. Black and white, all people of our country. Ausdimpo knows even this. We consult with her. Our Red Brigades are called the Chris Hani Red Brigades. We never fail in the memory of Comrade Chris. We do election work on a daily basis until the votes have been counted. This is the only way at this period in time that we can actually give good honor to South Africa's great warrior, Commander Hani. As you know, I'm not going to go into his biography. Many comrades have spoken about this. I want to send a last message respecting even the words said by Ausdimpo, the last quote from Comrade Chris. Today I'm wearing the combat of the glorious People's Army, Umkhonto weSizwe, Commander Hatu. Come here. Commanders and commissars of Umkhonto weSizwe, Izandla, in combat. There's a member of the special force here, Commander Gap. He's not in combat. We can't call you Commander Gap. But he was in the special force. He fought in battles. He's the one of the unit, for instance, that defeated the apartheid regime. They downed one of their helicopters in Makado. SABC must be doing documentaries about the struggle of our people. Because the public broadcaster, this revolution didn't just come for nothing. Now, comrades, the reason I'm wearing a combat today is very important. One, after I went full-time in the party, after I left the army, the integrated army, South African National Defense Force, which I integrated to in 1995, because we came late here after democracy. When Comrade Chris was killed, we were in the camp. Commander Freddy is here. He's also in civilian clothes. We called him Ziki at the time in our base. There, we were soldiers of Umkhonto weSizwe. We took an oath under military instruction when we joined Umkhonto weSizwe. When we joined Umkhonto weSizwe, Comrade SG of the African National Congress, you renounced all your previous affiliations with the African National Congress. So that means if there was somebody in the ANC underground who was responsible for your work, that task changed because your political authority was now under Umkhonto weSizwe, which accounts politically to the African National Congress. All members of Umkhonto weSizwe will never attack the African National Congress. We took a life and death oath to be under the political control, not just leadership, political control. Underline this word in capital letters, political control of the African National Congress under command and control of Umkhonto weSizwe. This was one of our commanders. Commander J. He's the convener of MK Liberation War veterans as reunited by the African National Congress. There's no other MK that is not under the African National Congress. And therefore, comrade, this question, I wear this combat when we went to Bloemfontein after COPE was established. That's when I wear the combat. I went back to this combat. I went back to this combat because another party is established in our name. This is absolute thuggery, thievery. It's unacceptable. This is provocation. In military terms, members of Umkhonto weSizwe understand this thing. This is political mutiny. Yes, this is Commander Gabe from the Special Force. These are our heroes. We trained him in Cuba, in Angola, in Cuba. They came here, they made big operations. When Hani died, I was with this comrade in the camp. General Andrew Masondo came to give us this sad news. He was accompanied by Chief of Operations General Lambert Muloi, both deceased. May the undying spirit keep on fighting. We wanted General Lambert Muloi to give us an operation order to once and for all embark on a decisive armed struggle for our country after they killed our chief of staff. This was the worst provocation that they gave to our country. And yet, the leadership of our movement calmed us down. General Muloi said he doesn't have authority for operational order. He has to go to the High Command. The High Command accounted to the African National Congress. Shell out. Send a message that no, we are not going for an all-out violence. We were ready. Yes, we were ready. We were trained in everything. We listen to the political leadership. We want this country to know, particularly those who want to subvert this democracy, to understand its compromises. This cadre from the Special Force, you can see by looking at him, Commander Gabe, doesn't fully enjoy freedom. As are many MK combatants. Majority of these comrades are not working, we're in our combat. Because of those compromises. We will have to respond to these questions, comrade, post-elections, comrade Mbalula. It's the first task we are placing on the table as the Communist Party. The welfare of our combatants and all revolutionaries. We will discuss all those details because this is a public platform. I felt it's important that why I'm wearing a combat today, this is my election attire, Comrade Panyaza. Because we are defending the name of Umkhonto weSizwe. We joined the African National Congress in court. We were there in court. We signed legal papers to affirm that what Secretary General Mbalula was doing on behalf of the ANC, it's a collective decision of us in the alliance, particularly the founding leaders of Umkhonto weSizwe. You can never separate us from Umkhonto weSizwe. You can never even steal from us. All Umkhonto weSizwe soldiers vote for the African National Congress, no other party. These comrades will be a great tribute to our General Secretary, Commander Chris Hani. When we have enough time, we'll create enough space, not on a joint program with government because there's got limitations. We will speak at length about the life and times of the great warrior of our liberation, Commander Chris Hani, who stood for the working class and nothing else, who stood for non-racialism, but will never accept any white supremacy, will never accept any tendencies towards selling out our revolution, whether from inside or from outside. It was never a sellout, Comrade Chris Hani. And therefore, these cadres of our movement, commanders and commissars of the glorious People's Liberation Army, where's our chaplain? Oh, you are in uniform, chaplain, although umele upetele ze samva. Yes. Yes, that's our chaplain. He must speak about our history, about Umkhonto weSizwe. He buried, perhaps more than anybody, most of our commanders and cadres outside, because they were buried by our own chaplains. We observed these religious rites. So when we talk about the history of Umkhonto weSizwe, from the perspective of the Communist Party and the ANC, people like Chaplain Mapaila must be involved in this question, because they remain true cadres of this glorious People's Army. Like Ausdumpo, you said, we will die in this uniform. We will die with the African National Congress. We are humbling ourselves to our people that re-elect us decisively to correct things and to decisively depart from the unjust transition that was negotiated. The South African Revolution actually is rejuvenated. It starts now after these particular elections. All our premiers, I want to send a message to them, because this great premier here is doing very well. But Tinaku Communist Party, we don't mince our words when we see the truth. Ipalwe, clearly, one of our best performing premiers, Bomasis, clear about programs, interventionists. That's how the state must be. I wish all the premiers can get oomph. Jengalomfo, Comrade Panyaza Lucy. Utuwavara ni nama toll gate. Uwatimani ngizotu ya kuma countries. Mauya namhlanje we accompany you to those countries because we have fulfilled the promise we made to our people. Thank you very much. Amandla! Long live the undying spirit of Comrade Chris Hani. Long live! Forward to socialism, forward! Thank you very much.
Comrade Bob, how's you night, Chengango?